heart starts to race. You know that feeling. You start to get really clammy and sweaty, and you're like, I don't understand what this is. This is really weird. Your mouth feels like it's the Sahara Desert. It's dry, and like 100 gallons of water ain't gonna cut it. And you find yourself in that place.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference. So let's dive in.
Ooh, let's get into it. You just had that moment where you were about to speak. You are getting onto a stage, or maybe you're running your first Zoom meeting, or you are preparing to ask for that raise, and what happens? Your heart starts to race. You know that feeling. You start to get really clammy and sweaty, and you're like, I don't understand what this is. This is really weird. Your mouth feels like it's the Sahara Desert. It's dry, and like 100 gallons of water ain't gonna cut it. And you find yourself in that place of, well, people call it stage fright. Is it stage fright? That's the thing. And we all have experienced it. In fact, research shows that 75% of people have experienced this sensation. You might call it a panic attack. You might call it anxiety. But most people just refer to it as stage fright because, well, we don't know what else to call it. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's not stage fright. It's not stage fright because stage fright doesn't really exist. It's not a real thing. What you're experiencing is genuine anxiety. Some people call it performance anxiety. You might want to call it, fear of public speaking. If you're a scientist, you'll call it glossophobia. Glossophobia. Sounds like you're ordering a really expensive appetizer. Like, can I have a side of glossophobia, please, with some ketchup? Because I run cool. Here's how you know if you belong in a fancy restaurant. This is just a side note. You know if you belong in a fancy restaurant or not by how comfortable you are asking the waiter about ranch. Like my wife and I, we were at a fancy restaurant one time. Somebody gave us a gift card for it, and we felt kind of embarrassed. And we were there, and they gave us like this really expensive salad dressing that was basically just water and air. It was like deprived water, and I was like, I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to look up at the maitre d' who was wearing like his tuxedo and ask, you got any ranch? Like, you don't want to do that in the fancy restaurant. But anyway, I digress. So glossophobia is that fear of speaking. It's a real thing because people that have to speak, if they're not used to speaking and they're really good at their jobs, but they're not good at exactly how to speak, they get very, very freaked. And that's what I do for a living. Aside from being a pastor, I coach people through how to communicate better with confidence. But it's not stage fright. I know that a lot of people think that it's stage fright, but it's not. So I'll give you a little bit of an example for myself. And I'm going to talk about this at length further at some point on the podcast, but for about, I would say, 9 months in 2016. Now, I'd been a pastor at that point already for like 12 years. So I wasn't new to the rodeo of speaking. It wasn't something that I was afraid that I would have to do. But out of nowhere, in a January Sunday, a Saturday night, I should say, I was hit with this unbelievable panic attack. Like, I got all the things. I knew it wasn't a heart attack because I had dealt with a lot of people that had panic attacks. And I knew that it was certainly a panic attack. And so, my heart was racing. I couldn't catch my breath. No, it was not cardiovascular. No, it wasn't because I was, not like running too fast or anything. It happened very, very, very acutely. And so what ended up happening was for 9 months, I experienced generalized, terrible panic attacks and anxiety. I actually wrote a book about this because I pretty much tried everything that I could try in order to overcome this. But what I had to do in order to really feel confident in dealing with it was to look at what it actually was. And then there's some interesting insights that I got from working with a counselor, talking to a couple medical professionals about this. First of all, this thing that you get is not stage fright. It's not in and of itself its own thing. What it is just fear. That's all it is. It's fear. It's anxiety. And here's the truth. It's something that happens within us that now, I'm a Christian, and so I believe, we're created by God, we're hardwired by God with certain things. But if you're a biologist, you'll call this an evolutionary tactic of fight or flight. Okay, so what happens is when you're faced with something that is frightening, your mind makes this choice. Your mind is like, I'm going to put my boxing gloves on, I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to, fight this thing. Or I got to get out of here as quick as I possibly can because certain death is arriving. And it's a fight or flight thing. It's a fight or flight response. And what happens is your mind puts you in this position where it heightens all of the physiological effects of experiencing something deadly. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you were walking down the street and you were just minding your own business. You're about to go and see the latest Captain America movie, and you're about to buy your ticket. And all of a sudden, blah, out of nowhere, a cheetah appears and is standing between you and the box office. Your mind is going to tell you one of two things. Number one, it's going to say, I've been lifting. I could probably kill that cheetah. I mean, I don't know if that cheetah has ever encountered somebody as dangerous as me. Like, that's your fight response. Like, I can fight my way through this. The other side of it is, that's a cheetah. The likelihood of me dying is literally 99.9%. So I got to run, whether it's jumping back into your car, whether it's running and trying to jump on something high, because maybe the cheetah can't jump. The spoiler alert, the cheetah most likely can jump, but it's the choice that you make in that moment. Well, believe it or not, our minds do not differentiate when our lives are actually in danger versus when we're just uncomfortable. Call this a side effect of living in a society where most of us don't face death every single day. So what our mind does is it fills in the gaps. It's like, hey, this situation about you speaking at that board meeting, you might die from that. You're like, I might die from that? And your mind is like, yes, you might die from that. Maybe do fight or flight. And then you get the palms are sweaty and you're not even M&M. You're not even eating mom's spaghetti. And you're like overwhelmed with this idea of paralysis. And it impedes your ability to feel confident in the moment. So it's not stage fright, it's just fear. It's a psychological and chemical response, neurological response. So some people, on the other side, on the flip side, some people that are thrill seekers, if you're like an athlete and you like that performance nature, the performative nature of being in front of people for the sake of winning, this is what motivates you. You're like, yeah, I want to feel like they want to put themselves in a situation that's dangerous. Some years back, my wife bought me a gift on Father's Day for a skydiving package. And I'd always wanted to go skydiving, so truth be told, it was something I always wanted to do. But there is something weird when your spouse gives you something that requires you to sign a waiver that there's a high likelihood of death occurring during the thing. Like, I'm like, do we have to talk? Like, is there like a conversation that we have to, are we okay? Are you okay? Like, that's what I was feeling when she gave that to me. But in that moment, the feeling of doing something that is dangerous, inherently dangerous, that there's a euphoria. It releases a dopamine hit. And some people that are performance driven, like athletes, competitive sports people, any of those folks, people that do things that are public in a lot of ways, debates, public speakers, a lot of times what they'll do is they thrive on that feeling of, ooh, this is a cool and scary, dangerous thing. But most people aren't like that. In fact, 75% are not like that. That's why they have anxiety. And so when we have anxiety, it produces this thing when we're speaking. But it's not stage fright. It's just, call it what it is. It's just fear. It's anxiety. Couple things trigger it. I'll give you some triggers, and you tell me if this resonates with you. So some triggers that I wrote down here. Number one, high stakes. So let's say you're going into a job interview and you really, really, really want this role. It's really important to you. You have the skill set. You know that this is going to put you over the edge of the economic threshold that you're trying to get. You might be able to afford not one, but 2 cartons of eggs this week. Woo-hoo-hoo. Big spender, right? Like you know that this is life-changing. So the stakes being raised produces that fear. Well, what if I fail? What if it goes badly? What if they see that I'm not as qualified for the job as maybe my colleagues that might apply for this job? And you start to really, really have this fear associated with the job. Another high stakes thing would be, let's say you're with a group of friends and you have like a class reunion and you have to give a speech or a best man speech or maid of honor speech, and you have to do that. Like I have never given one of these. Oddly, all the speaking I've done, it's never come up. I probably need more friends to do that, but I've never had occasion to give a best man speech. And I've seen the anxiety that goes on when the stakes are raised like that. You're like, this is their friends and family. Everybody's together. Everybody they know is together. The people that they hang out with week after week are all together, and they have a quiet moment right before the cutting of the cake or the eating of the rubbery chicken that you have to deliver some sort of speech. And now it's even further higher stakes because this is going to be the only time that you get to do this for your friend. I mean, in most cases, in a lot of cases, they might do this 2 or 3 times. That's a separate discussion. This isn't a marriage discussion, but this is a discussion about how big those stakes are. You don't want to embarrass yourself. You don't want to embarrass your friend that put you in that situation. So that anxiety comes up through the roof. It really, really does. And this is, the science behind it is the stakes being raised. Another thing is like unfamiliarity. Like when you're doing something for the first time, nobody is a pro right out of the gate. Like they don't know what they're doing. Let's say it's your first time running a staff meeting. Let's say it's your first time having a interview with a potential candidate for a role, and you are the one that's running the interview. Well, you might feel a little bit of anxiety because that fear comes up. It triggers that. And then unfortunately, and this is something that happens with a lot of us, one of the triggers are past mistakes. I have heard just about every single story of speaking gone wrong, where somebody gets up to speak and they realize their fly was down. They get up to speak and they trip over their words. Their microphone dies. They spit. They mess up the words. And all of those things that happens all the time. I've been speaking for so long. Any mistake that you think you've ever made speaking, I guarantee you I've made it. I have done horrible things. I've pronounced husbands and wives by the wrong name. I've called the spouse, the girlfriend of the fiance that I'm doing their marriage. I've called them by their ex-spouse's name. I've done that. Thank God it's only happened during rehearsal. Get it out of my system. Like, it's like you have to do it. I'm like, you look exactly like their previous spouse. I don't know if you have a type. I think you have a type. Like, this is what goes through your mind. But you make a mistake like that, and then you feel bad. I've had the panic attacks. I've forgotten what I was going to say. I've said things to all the things. So what happens is if you don't speak frequently, let's say you don't do it very often, you'll find yourself lamenting a previous mistake. I remember that one time I had that best man speech. Oh man, did I jack that up. Oh, do you remember that one time I had to do the toast or the opening prayer for a dinner? And oh my goodness, I tripped over my words. I don't know what I'm saying. And you relive those moments, and those past mistakes become a prophecy about your future endeavor speaking. So you take that past mistake and you bring it into the forefront of your upcoming speaking. So that is a trigger, a really, really big trigger. So what happens? Now, when this happens, there are some things that we have to keep in mind. And I'm going to give you some quick, I'm going to give you 3 action items that will essentially kind of help you the next time that you have stage fright. All right, because everything that I do with this podcast, and I want to thank all of you that downloaded this, subscribed. I mean, please right now, before I give you these 3 tips, if you want the tips, subscribe. And if you really like so far what you hear, leave a review, because I want to make sure that people hear about this, and I really want to help people and serve people. And so what we intend on doing with this podcast is giving you as much practicality as we can, so that way you can thrive in whatever your endeavor is. But for speaking in particular, I want to give you very practical insight. So here's the first thing. Number 1, the first thing is you have to be present. All right. So what does that mean? That means that if something happened in your past, you have to let it go and realize that's not this. So when I was coaching somebody that overcame, it was a person that had a pretty bad flub when it comes to a speaking engagement, and it cost them a role, it cost them a job. So I told them to memorize this statement. Here's the statement. You could try it on for size, tell me what you think, but here's the statement. That is not this. Okay, say it again for the people in the back. That is not this. That speech that you gave in 2010 is not the one that you're giving in 2025. You are not the same person you were. You're different now. You have a different set of skills. Like Liam Neeson, I have a particular set of skills. You've got that going for you, and you're not going to repeat history. Okay, so that is not this. So tell yourself, though you may learn from that, though you may overcome, that is not this. Okay, so you have to be present in the moment. Really, really important. Second of all, I would tell myself, I do not have anxiety. I have confidence deficiency. You do not have anxiety. You have confidence deficiency. So what does that mean? Confidence is the ability that you have to show up in your own skin, to go out into a meeting, go into a speech, go into some sort of an engagement and feel completely at ease with who you are. Now, the problem with a lot of us is, if we're being truthful with one another, confidence is a high commodity, and we don't feel comfortable in our own skin. And we especially don't feel comfortable when we have to do something that's new. So, my suggestion is to borrow confidence from something else that you've done well at. So when I was going through that period of anxiety, and I was going through that stage fright, whatever you want to call it, the glossophobia, whatever you want to say, I had made a list, a very detailed list of things that I did that went well. I would say, I've given keynote speeches. I, preach, and it's been fine. I've helped people learn how to communicate. I have gotten certifications for training where I had to be evaluated in front of people that had been doing my job for years. Like I put all that in a document and I'd review it. So when I lacked confidence in this space, I would borrow confidence from previous wins. My favorite author, John Acuff, says, win the way you won before. And when I'm coaching people to speak better, I'll make them make a list of, what have you killed it at? Like, be honest. Like, pretend like it's just us girls here and you're bragging. I'm your brag table. Tell me the things that you've killed it at. And they'll say, I got this massive real estate deal. I saved my company $5 million. I hired somebody and I transformed the workforce. Like, they go through all of those things, and it's amazing the wins. But here's what else is amazing. You won't bring them into that speech, and you pretend like you've never done anything well, and this is going to be a dud and you're going to be terrible. So bring that confidence. Go, I am good at certain things. I'm bringing value. I am able to do this. And so that is something that you could bring. So if you're lacking in confidence, you have a confidence deficiency, bring it from another area, bring it to the table, and make it useful. All right. Now, the third thing, and this one is very, 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 very helpful if you know the people, if you know anything about the people. And it's this: focus on the people, focus on one person at a time, and focus on the connection you've made with them. So I'll give you a quick example. I just did a keynote for an organization this past week, and they invited me to do a keynote. So a bunch of business people in suits, and it was fancy. It was in a really fancy place downtown Pittsburgh. It's intimidating. I told you about the Gotney Ranch. That still applies. I'm like, I don't belong here. What flavor of ranch do you have? Are we dealing with Hellman's or are we in Kraft? I don't fit. I'm more relaxed, but I had to play that role because I'm doing this with business people. These are executive people. So what I did to bring my level of anxiety down, because I don't want to say I get really stage fright anymore. I do get nervous about things going well and making sure that I make a connection. So here's what I did. I showed up early, and as people were coming in, I was talking to them. I was just having conversations. Hey, tell me about your job. Tell me about your role. What do you do? What's exciting you about this position that you're in? Tell me what you like about belonging to this organization. Tell me what has been most valuable for you. Just asking questions, being present. Because the more I got to know them, the more I realized, I'm serving John over there who's eating a salad right now. And I'm helping Rebecca who's, just sitting down for the first time, and she's having a big year coming up. And so it enabled me to look at them as just people. And I capitalized on the little bit of relationship that I'd established with them. And that's no big deal. These are just people. And I have a secret. The next podcast is going to be the secret of why, when you speak, if you know this secret, it's going to change how you deliver, because it's the one secret that your audience has that you don't know about. I guarantee you don't know about it. And this secret is going to help you. So that's next episode. So let's call it clickbaity, call it a preview. But if you are speaking to somebody, that person, regardless of what the audience is, and I'm going to say, I never want to say 100%, but I'm going to say 99.99999% chance that the people that you're speaking to, this is the secret they have. So don't miss that episode. And again, like and subscribe. So again, remember, let's go back to this. The relational component of that helps you to speak. So I'm not speaking to a group. I'm speaking to John. I'm speaking to Deborah. I'm speaking to Devin. I'm speaking to Gene. I'm focusing on those people, and I'm not focusing on a crowd that has no familiarity. When you speak to one person at a time, and when you focus on one person at a time, it really does change the nature of how you talk to people. So those are my encouragements. So remember, just by way of recap, you want to make sure that you focus on one person at a time. We talked about that. You want to make sure you borrow confidence because you have a confidence deficiency. We talked about that. And then also you want to be in the moment. All right. Don't bring, those past mistakes up. You want to stay present in the moment. You want to stay there. You want to realize that you're there for that. That's not this. This is not that. This is something altogether different. And when you actually get a chance to see what that's like, then you can let yourself go and be the best type of presenter, which is a presenter who is themselves. And when a presenter is themselves, they are able to truly have no limits when it comes to presenting, because you're just presenting your whole personality. You have an interesting personality, like I told you before last week. And this is helpful as you think about putting all these together. I am not looking to be original as the content. All the stuff I gave you, that's all stuff you could get from ChatGPT, from Grok, if you want to, because Elon Musk, again, is inventing stuff that's destroying, markets, and he's creating things well. So you can get all these tips from everywhere, but you know what you can't get? You can't get them delivered by me. I'm bringing my own unique brand. And that's the way you want to be when you are speaking. You are the most powerful tool in your presentation, not the content, not the timing of your slides and the animation and the lighting and the audio. All that's important. Nothing compares to the fact that you're delivering it. Of course, you're going to have imposter syndrome. Of course, you're going to have an opportunity to feel uncomfortable. But the truth is, you're the one that's most qualified to deliver the most value to the people you're speaking to. And so am I. And I coach people, I train people, I lead people on how to speak this way. And once they do, they never go backwards. Once they realize truly what it's like to be confident as a communicator, it changes their whole desire to communicate. So that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I'm trying to connect with you. And that's why I'm trying to give you a win. So if you should feel so inclined on Facebook or on LinkedIn or wherever you saw the link for this episode, let me know about an engagement that maybe you have coming up that you are nervous about. Or let me know about an engagement that you experienced where you killed it. You're like, oh man, I killed it. Spoke at that retirement party. I was able to help do that best man speech, that toast. I'd love to know about your specific situation because every situation is unique. But one thing that's not unique, those who communicate with confidence, those who stand on the stage and let go of their quote unquote stage fright, their fear, their panic, their anxiety, and they go for it, the value you have in the marketplace goes up. And you become a person who wins not only in the area that you succeeded at in your job, but you become a person who is capable of changing your entire organization for the better. Because unless the leader gets better, the organization is going to get better. And the best and quickest way to transform the world and to change it is by changing its leaders.